Thank you all for joining us today at Helen's Hope Chest to recognize National Service members for the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service. I'm Michelle Alvis, Volunteer Manager for the City of Mesa. First, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Marguerite Kondrack, who serves on the board for the Corporation of National and Community Service. Mary Strasser, National Director for the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Dan Wollam, Mesa United Way President and CEO. And the Honorable Mesa Mayor Scott Smith. At this time, I would like to introduce Marguerite Kondrack. Marguerite is the Senior Advisor to the America's Promise Alliance and serves as the President and CEO from 2004 to 2012. During her 40-year career, Ms. Kondrack has been both an entrepreneur and public servant, focusing on the needs of children and families.
Thank you, Michelle. It is an honor to be in Mesa today. The sun is shining, it's beautiful. And on this great day of service, I especially want to recognize Mayor Smith and to thank him for his leadership on behalf of service. I came here from Washington, D.C., a sort of dysfunctional place, but we do have some priorities straight, and one of those priorities is service. All over the country today, in 832 communities, we are having a day of service led by mayors such as Mayor Smith. 96 million people are participating in the Day of Service. It's a third of our country's population in all 50 states. So it's pretty exciting, pretty remarkable. But in no place could I imagine a more meaningful example of service than Helen's Hope Chest. So it means a great deal to me to be here. Mayors are fantastic leaders to help their community rally together, pull together, neighbor helping neighbor, to solve challenges, personal problems, community problems. Definitely the spirit of service. The mayor and I were talking at breakfast that this is what makes America great. The spirit of service, neighbors helping neighbors. The Corporation for National and Community Service leads VISTA and AmeriCorps workers all over the country, working in partnership with governors and mayors to help communities meet their local needs. We engage over 5 million of our fellow Americans to help communities organize their volunteers and accomplish great things together. It means a great deal to me, especially to be here with the Mesa United Way, Dan Wollam and Claudia Walters I met earlier. I am grateful for the spirit of service that's alive and well, and I'm very grateful for Mayor Scott Smith's leadership. He will soon be leading the U.S. Conference of Mayors, so we're lucky here in Mesa to have one of our own moving into that important role of example for the nation. Thank you. It's an honor for me to be with you.
Thank you, Marguerite. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mary Strasser. Mary was appointed the VISTA Director for the Corporation for National and Community Service in 2011. Ms. Strasser was the State Director for the Corporation for National and Community Services Pennsylvania office and was responsible for public outreach and program support throughout the state and for the oversight of Pennsylvania's Senior Corps and AmeriCorps VISTA projects.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Marguerite, and thank you, superstar, rock star, Scott Smith. Last week when I found out that I got to come to Mesa, I stood up and gave a big hooray because this is the destination. This is ground zero for the best work in the country doing national service. And we only have to look at this wonderful facility and the project that National Service built. How many AmeriCorps VISTAs or veterans alums are in the house today? Let me hear you. How many AmeriCorps or AmeriCorps alums are in the house today? How about Senior Corps? Dre, RSVP. So this is the face of national service. It is your neighbors, your community, your people doing important work in your communities that represent the needs of your communities. I was talking with Dan this morning, and Don and Claudia, who are with United Way, and they were reinforcing that idea that national service isn't a cookie-cutter application that gets applied to all communities in the same way. It's a strategy that takes the ideas and the power in the communities and really makes changes in those communities for the better. Not only benefits the communities, it benefits those people who serve. We get as much from service as we give. I have heard of 3 or 4 of the people who are here today who launched their second careers as VISTAs, which is a remarkable testament to the value of national service. It's a pathway to careers, as I heard Michelle say earlier, and Melissa, where's Melissa? Over there, who both were AmeriCorps, are both AmeriCorps alums who can actually trace their career path right back to the day they served. So this is a remarkable resource that we have. Another thing that I think is probably under-researched but intuitively enormously valuable with national service is the return on investment. We were talking about the EITC VITA program here in Mesa and the IDA, Individual Development Account Program for Education here in Mesa. And easily you can see that our simple investment of 1 or 2 VISTAs in this community brings back $3 million, nearly $3 million to the economy here in Mesa, which is an enormous return on our investment. We like to think that, based on our analysis, VISTAs who do resource development in the communities where they serve across the country return $170 million to the economies of those communities in which they serve, which is double the cost of the entire VISTA program. And not all VISTAs do that kind of resource development. So when you think about the cost of this program and the return to the communities, it's a great value that we definitely need to treasure. And it makes everybody feel good. So it's a wonderful, wonderful program. I'm thrilled to be here at Helen's Hope Chest. I got to talk to Don about a year ago when I was doing some prospecting for a story for the White House, and I zeroed right in on this facility, never knowing that I'd actually have the opportunity to meet it, to be here and to see it and to meet the people who created it. I'm very grateful to Claudia and Dan Wollam from United Way of Mesa, and the state office, and all of the people who made this day possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Next, we'd like to welcome Dan Wollam, Mesa United Way President and CEO. Dan has been the President and CEO of Mesa United Way since 2010 and has been involved in the United Way of Arizona since 2006. He has had a career of more than 45 years in the administration of nonprofit services and higher education.
Thank you. It was President Ronald Reagan was once quoted as saying that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language were, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Now, with all due respect to the President, I have to say he probably did not benefit and did not have the experience of having a VISTA or AmeriCorps service in the White House, and he probably never served himself, because if he had, he would know that in reality, AmeriCorps and VISTA are 2 of the most significant community building programs that the government has ever come up with. And part of the reason is because it really is not the government coming in and doing things and building. It is actually enabling the community to build itself. The volunteers that we have here today are people from Mesa who found a way to serve their community and to help to build a very, very crucial service. If I were to list to you today all of the different kinds of service that AmeriCorps and VISTA workers have done here in Mesa, you'd be here all afternoon. It ranges everything from libraries to utilities to parks to human services and down to education and what we're doing here today and what you will see here with services to foster children. Another wise leader once said, "He who would be greatest among you, let him be the servant of all." Now, I'm not sure that was meant to apply to government agencies, but if it did, in my opinion, the corporation would be the greatest of all. And the payment that we get back here, I think is best summarized in the words of one of the young men who came here to get some clothing after having just been placed in foster care. And as he was leaving the building one evening, he turned to everyone there and said, "God bless you." And I say, God bless you to the corporation, to the city of Mesa, to the public school district, and to all of you who are here today, and all who performed the services through AmeriCorps and VISTA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. I would like to introduce Mesa's Mayor Scott Smith. Mayor Smith is serving his second term after running unopposed. He is also the incoming president for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, marking the first time an Arizona mayor has led this organization. Smith is one of 7 Valley mayors to sign on to the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service.
Thank you, Michelle. And Marguerite and Mary and Dan, thank you so much for those words. And Mary, I think of when you say a rock star, I think of most of the rock stars I know that are pushing 60 years old, a little bit thick in the middle, and that's not a pretty sight. So, today we're here to celebrate, a couple of, and it would have been mentioned, a couple of organizations that have done a great job. But this is not about organizations. It's not about institutions. It's not about entities. It's not about leaders like me. It's about people like you. One of the great blessings that I get to take part of as Mesa's mayor, is I get to meet and work with people who make a difference in the world. I get to be part of an organization that hopefully provides a forum, a vehicle for those good people to help other people. That's what this is all about. We have a unique thing here in America. As Marguerite was talking about the discussion we had at breakfast, I don't think people realize how unique this culture of service that we have in America and in our communities is in this world. There is no other nation in this world that gives like Americans give. There is no other place in the world where people at the community level volunteer their time, their talents, their resources, their money to the extent that we do here in America. I am so grateful to be a mayor of a city that I think is a superstar, that I think shows the way in how to create opportunities for those who want to change people's lives, and then who show up and make things happen. We're standing in front of one of those examples, and I could go on and on talking about many examples where people in Mesa saw a need. They didn't just sit around and talk about how they could solve that. They did something. From a simple idea to talking to 1 or 2 or 5 people, to all of a sudden there were people gathered together. And before you know it, you have something like Helen's Hope Chest, which takes care of a need that we don't really realize unless you've been through it. And Helen had been through it. And then you start looking at things like, how do we find a home? This is what, the 3rd or 4th home of Helen's Hope Chest? The 3rd. Been here about 6 months now. I've been here in Mesa, and I grew up just about 3 or 4 blocks that way from here, to know that this building has been through many different lives. I think it started out as the home of the Mesa Schools Credit Union, and then was used for a variety of services by the Mesa Public Schools. But I can tell you that there is nothing that has been done inside these walls that will have the impact on people, that will change lives like what is being done now. The people that will be served, and as Dan so eloquently said, appreciate your service. They understand your service. They are grateful for your service. Now, I appreciate AmeriCorps, Senior Corps, VISTA, Mary, Michelle, Marguerite, Dan, Claudia. I'd also like to give special kudos to the person in my office that really leads up our service, works with Michelle quite a bit, and that's Kathy McDonald. Kathy, you want to wave? My chief of staff, who also leads up the mayor's efforts specifically on service. And I can tell you that the most gratifying times I have in office is when I get to be out and watch people who don't get headlines. They don't have a news report about them. They don't have an article about them. They don't get nice things said about them. And yet they do it because they care. They do it because they've experienced the greatest blessing of service, which is sort of weird that the most unselfish thing you do when you give turns around and becomes one of the most personal and not selfish, but rewarding, self-rewarding experiences you can have. That's the beauty of service. People in Mesa get that. I'm grateful to be able to be surrounded by literally thousands of people who get that. I'm so grateful to live in a nation where literally millions of people work through organizations such as VISTA, such as AmeriCorps, such as Senior Corps. And that's why we have the great privilege to recognize them on one day and say thank you. We get to point them out and say, we're grateful for what you do. And we get to give whatever little bit of recognition that we can give, which in no way comes close to the recognition they feel, which is the private, silent recognition, as Dan said, when somebody in need turns around and says, God bless you. That was great to say that, Dan. That's where the real reward comes. So thank all of you for your service. Thank you for joining us here in this recognition. And now let's just keep going and changing the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, and thank you to everyone in attendance today. At this time, we invite all of our speakers to join us for a photo at the podium. Following this, we invite all of our National Service members to join our speakers for a photo. Immediately after the photos, we invite everyone to join us for a short service project and a tour of Helen's Hope Chest. Thank you.